then there were two. And then there were two. Potentially two. Elizabeth Warren, earlier, I think it was last week, put out an announcement essentially saying she's opened an exploratory committee for running for president. This essentially means that Elizabeth Warren is most likely running for president of the United States. Good for Elizabeth Warren. And now we have an anti-climatic potential, based on what sources are saying anyway, that Kamala Harris is going to enter the race on or around Martin Luther King's birthday. Certain amount of theatrics that gives you the idea of what kind of campaign she's going to be running. Just a rank identity politics laden campaign. I care about policy. I care about what the person is doing. I care less about the physical features, meaning whether it's a man or woman. I care about what the person can do from a capable standpoint and whether or not they represent my interests. Running a fiercely tribal, racially motivated campaign, which is, if this is true, she's opening on Martin Luther King's birthday, essentially using Martin Luther King for political advantage. I gotta be honest, it's slightly gross. When Hillary Clinton was making campaign speeches based upon areas where somebody had shot in order to get a certain effect from the black community. I mean, I gotta be honest, some of this stuff is gross. When Tom Perez puts out a thing saying that make Bernie Sanders the white candidate so you can essentially alienate people of color from Sanders. I'm sorry, this is racial and rather gross in a standpoint of politics. And even with that, you can walk and chew gum at the same time, meaning you can deal with this economic issues while at the same time dealing with issues of identity or protecting issues of identity. That's it. That's a tangent. Kamala Harris to enter the presidential race. This is based on reporting from The Hill. Kamala Harris to enter presidential race on or around Martin Luther King's birthday. Senator Kamala Harris will formally announce her bid for the White House on or around Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, sources told KCBS Radio, a station in her home state of California. The sources said she, quote unquote, probably will make the announcement at a rally in Oakland, the radio station added. A spokesperson for Kamala Harris, however, told The Hill that no announcement is imminent and Harris will not be in Oakland during the holiday event. KCBS report comes after Harris told CNN Jake Tapper on Wednesday that she'll soon make a decision on whether or not to run in 2020. During the CNN appearance, Kamala Harris, she thinks the United States is ready for a woman of color to be president. Yes. Just like it's ready for a regular woman to be president. Or, in the case, a Jew. Or, in the case, whatever. There is a faction of this country that will be against it. That's true, but that faction has always existed, and that faction has always been there. I don't have this belief that just because she's a woman or a woman of color that she will be denied the office. I think Obama kind of broke the mold on that one. I do agree that, I know this sounds weird, but you can be a president that just so happens to be black, but not necessarily a black president. But I don't know if that's fully true anymore with Obama being in office. I'll explain what I mean. But KCBS radio report comes after Harris told right. We have to give the American people more credit, and we have to understand that the American public and the people of our country are smart people who will make decisions about who will be their leader based on who they believe is capable, who they believe is honest, and their desire to lead, to represent and see them, and to be a voice for them even if they have no power, Harris said in her appearance. Everybody plays to that particular angle, but I think that's to some degree true. It's the argument that you make, and it's how people perceive you, not necessarily your identity. At least I could be wrong. Not saying racism doesn't exist. It definitely does. And I'm not saying that political parties don't try to harness it using dog whistles, in some cases, like that wall, much larger items. But would that be the sole contributor to your demise? No. I know Hillary Clinton liked to make this point of sexism and all, but they were calling Bernie Sanders sexist. I mean, that gives you this idea of how this stuff is used sometimes in political parties or political campaigns or for political agendas. But that's it. Kamala Harris is getting in the race This one is not going to be long. I'm going to end this here because I have a few more. She's using blackness for political gain. Yeah, she's using blackness for political gain. That's exactly what it is. Kamala Harris's man hands. I don't know if Kamala Harris's man hands. Well, that's funny. I think Jimmy Dore called this one. Elizabeth Warren is going to run to split up the progressive vote in primaries. Elizabeth Warren is going to run because Elizabeth Warren had said she was going to run. I don't think there's any kind of overarching idea of running Elizabeth Warren in order to split the progressive vote. Elizabeth Warren had said she was going to, or at the very least it was assumed that Elizabeth Warren was going to run. I mean, by the same token, could you say Cory Booker is running in order to split up the neoliberal vote, or Kristen Gillibrand? Yeah, I'm skeptical of that. I do think 2020 is going to be a fun fest, especially from the standpoint of the Democratic Party. But I reserve judgment to see how it turns out. So I'm going to leave this here. If you all enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through PayPal or Patreon. She doesn't get my vote, by the way. If she makes it to the end, then Donald Trump is probably going to be president again. So I'll leave it here. Thanks all.